Okay, very good evening, and thank you for joining in. I know our session has kind of delayed because we are trying to give an opportunity for all of the people who registered to be present. But I know they may have conflicts within their schedules, they may be busy or they may be caught up somewhere. And hopefully they will be able to join us during the course of this session. So for all of us who are already in, I say we should settle in so that we can have this session. It should be able to take us 1.5 hours for us to wrap up everything. So let me take this time to welcome Anita. I can see Andrew. Welcome Brian. Welcome Davin. Welcome Francis. Welcome Joel. Welcome Mr. Kajubi Andrew. Welcome Silva Bukala. And yes, you're welcome. Welcome Silva. Welcome Thomas. And still more other people joining in. Alan, I see Alan is in. So thank you so much and welcome for today's session. All right, so I cannot take the round to let everyone introduce themselves. So I'll just request that we follow along, and a time will come when we shall be able to come in and ask our questions. So for today, I've turned off my video. My video is not very clear, as you kind of saw it before. My lighting is not so good. So I will just keep it off, and hopefully you can follow through with the screen share and also my voice. Okay, so let's proceed as we wait for the rest of the attendants to also join in. So this is the project management professional, or in other words, the PMP free information session. And it is happening today here in Uganda, May 26, 2026. And we are going to have this session run for at least 1.5 hours. So this session is being brought to you by NewSkill Uganda, and I will be your facilitator. In a short while, you'll be able to know who I am. So the agenda for today is very simple, and the agenda is all about what you've always wanted, okay? The agenda is all about the PMP and how you can get there. So first, we shall start with a brief introduction of the facilitator, which is me. Then after that, we shall have an overview of projects and project management. Then we shall also get a quick overview of the PMI and its PMP certification. Then I will take you on a roadmap to becoming PMP certified. Then after that, I will interest you in NewSkill and our training program, how we can help you partner together as your training partner to assist you in your journey of becoming PMP certified. Then hopefully we shall be able to share some student testimonials. I was hoping we would have some students who've been part of this PMP exam prep class, and should any of them be present in this class, they will be able to maybe come in for a minute or two to share their testimonials and how the journey was like for them with NewSkill's PMP prep course. Then after that, we were supposed to have a quick PMP exam prep course demo, but we blended that within the course of our discussion. So you'll be able to see some of the PMI licensed content within our presentation. These are some of the information that you'll be able to learn in depth should you join our PMP exam prep course. Then at the end of the day, we shall have a session for questions and answers. So should there be any questions that you had previously and you felt like it was not answered during the course of this presentation, that would be the time that you would present those questions. So you can use the chat. You can be posting those questions as we build on our discussion. Then when the time comes, we'll be able to get back to those questions. And most importantly, I will interest you, of course, in enrolling or joining one of our prep courses that are going to be coming up. That is, if at the end of this session you have made a decision that you want to move forward, remember the choice will be yours. Okay, so thank you so much. That is our agenda. And once again, let me also welcome Alex. You're welcome. And Chiwalabie Dalausi, you're also welcome for this session.
Thank you, sir.
Francis, you're also welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So a little bit about myself, your facilitator for tonight, and also the PMP instructor. My name is Bosco Odon, PMP. So you can see that credentials after my name. And those are my contacts. You can contact me on that 078 It's also my WhatsApp contact. That is also my email. In case you're a great fan of project management, I post quite a lot about it on my LinkedIn. You can follow me. Okay. I have a background in quantity surveying, where I took a bachelor's degree in building economics. That's from Chambo University. Then I proceeded also to complete my postgraduate diploma in project planning and management from UMI. Currently pursuing an MBA. I could say I have more than 5 years of experience in construction. Not quite so much, but I've had the opportunity of being part of a big team, leading projects, major infrastructure projects, and building construction projects within the construction landscape in Uganda. And among them, I was honored to be a planning specialist with CPP, that is on the ECO project, the pipeline that is going to be taking Uganda's oil to the Tanga port. I was also honored to be part of the Tilenga well pads as a contractor's QS. I've also worked on the U Forever Water Factory, which is in Kamdini, and currently they've started producing the water. I've also been part of the team that worked on the employers' permanent camp in the Karuma hydropower dam, one of the largest dams within our country. As far as my training experience goes, I have been able to train with several AGPs like Hebo in Tanzania and Fast Forward Academy in South Africa, among others. So far, I can say I've trained more than 100 students and helped them prepare for the PMP exam. And with NewSkill alone, that one I'm counting with NewSkill alone. And I am also a great member of the PMI community, ISU, that is our professional body for surveyors. And I am PMP certified, just like some of us, or just like some of us who want to become. And most importantly, the reason why you're here, I am an authorized PMP instructor. So I'm one of the few within the global community of authorized PMP instructors. But today is not all about myself. Today is all about you, and answering the questions that you might be having lingering in your mind. Okay. And when we put up the registration link, a lot of us, are registered for this session. And the most important thing was the pain points. So we shall try as much as possible to make sure that this simple presentation in the next 1 hour, we answer to that question. So we will start off with our agenda number one, which is an overview of projects and project management. So as always, I'll try and make this session a little bit interactive. So if I pull you out from the crowd and maybe ask you a question, if you're able to answer it, you can just unmute your mic and you can answer it. So I'll just do a random pick. I think maybe I can pick on Kajubi Andrew. In your own understanding, how would you define a project? If you're able to unmute and speak up.
Oh, thank you, Bosco.
Thank you.
To my understanding, a project is simply a solution to a problem.
A solution to a problem. Thank you. That is Kajubi. And how about from Silva Bukala? What would be your understanding of a project? That is, if you're able to unmute, or you may as well use the chat. And for the rest of us, we can also post our responses in the chat. So we make these sessions a little bit interactive. That is what we need. Okay, if we can't have Silver, maybe we can have someone else. How about from Grace, Alan Grace?
Okay, to my side,
Yes.
a project is a series of challenges combined together, and that can be solved by a specific mode of solutions set aside.
Okay, so you made
That's
mention
it.
of challenges, solution, so and somehow it also kind of relates to, you can see it kind of relates to what Andrew was saying, the idea of solution. All right, let us see from the standard definition what actually is a project. So a project is a temporary endeavor or initiative. Now this is the textbook description that is taken so that we can create value. So the focus is on the creation of value. So think of the different types of projects that you may have been part of. You'll understand that it is temporary in a nature that it has a definite beginning or a start date and a definite end date. You will also understand that it creates value because at the end of the day, you have to hand over something which is unique, a deliverable, right? And also you'll understand that the project is unique in a way that it consumes resources. It is unique in a way that plans may be progressively elaborated. It is unique in a way that the project itself, as defined, is a one-time or a one-off thing. Okay, so you may be asking yourself, where do projects actually occur? Now, the truth is, projects happen in almost every sector or every industry or under almost every discipline. Think of from construction to humanitarian or NGOs to defense and security to IT. So, an example in construction sector, a project would be, let's say, a building of a highway, a building of a hospital, a bridge, or a shopping mall. You know, oil and gas, we have the construction of, let's say, a crude oil pipeline or a refinery. We are seeing this quite a lot within our country. Within IT or information technology, we may be thinking about developing of, websites or development of mobile applications. Within the health industry, we may be talking about the mass vaccination campaign or maybe construction of a health center. Now, all these are projects you can think of within agriculture, education, telecoms, energy and water, rather water and sanitation, manufacturing, transport, banking, mining, real estate, like construction of residential apartments, environmental projects, things to do with restoration, of wetlands or maybe tree planting campaigns. Projects could also be in the disciplines of events management. We are thinking about, let's say, organizing a national conference or a sports tournament. Like, the AFCON soon will be coming in. That is a project of its own. Research and development projects, like maybe conducting a market research study, or maybe conducting a satisfaction survey for stakeholders. In defense and security, it could be as simple as installation or upgrade of a national surveillance system. So we see projects happening in almost every sector and every discipline. So it is right that you're going to be seeing the PMP class full of a variety or a combination of many of these disciplines. So one may then be asking, why do we need to undertake projects? Now, the whole point of undertaking projects is to create value, is to solve problems. Just like, we had our previous participants make mention, it's a solution. Or you can implement projects to seize an opportunity. So that is why within your organizations, you realize that some of the reasons why your company or your organization may undertake a project, it could be to increase efficiency. Maybe previously the way they were getting work done is not fast enough. So they need a project maybe to put a new production line. It could also be to improve customer satisfaction. A simple project of a survey of customer satisfaction levels can help improve. It could be to expand business operations. It could be to generate more profit. All these are different forms of value that we're talking about. It could be to solve organizational problems. Maybe it is as simple as meeting regulatory requirements. We understand that the landscape of projects is prone with, rapid and dynamic regulatory changes, and yet you have to remain compliant. So how do we do this? Sometimes we implement projects to ensure that we remain compliant. Introducing innovation or improving our infrastructure, like the way we see with government projects. So that is what projects is all about. So if now we know what projects are, because the PMP stands for Project Management Professional, right? So a professional that manages project. So now I want to ask the second question. And welcome, Angel. Welcome, Anita. I see others are still joining in. What would be your understanding of project management? Okay, so this one I just want to hear your simple description or definition of project management. So can I give this to Brian? I see we have Brian. Brian, if you're able to unmute, you can just give us your simple understanding of what project management is. Okay, as we're waiting on Brian, perhaps maybe he's not present, we can have Devin. Devin, if you're okay, you may unmute and share with us your opinion on what project management is about for you.
Hello, can
Hello.
you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Yes, please.
I would say project management is essentially applying the knowledge and skills that you have acquired in order to have a successful execution of a project, I guess.
Well, perfect. And that is well said. Thank you so much, Devin. And it is true, when we talk of project management, we are simply applying the knowledge, applying the skills, applying the tools and techniques that are available to us, to the actual project activities so that we can achieve the intended value or we can meet the objectives of that project. All right. So if the objective was to construct, let's say, a fully furnished 50-bed maternity ward. So you'll apply all the knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques that you have to the actual activities to ensure that you deliver what that intended value actually is. So it is true. And these tools and techniques, there are quite a lot of them. Some you may know, some you may not know, some you may have been applying, some you might have not have applied it. Some you may be using it, but perhaps not to the best way possible, and so on and so forth. So the question would then be, why do we need project management? All right. So the whole concept of project management is to enable us to deliver value. Now, this brings us to the idea of the triple constraint, or other people call it the iron triangle. The iron triangle is made up of cost, time, and scope. Now, these are the three constraints or the factors that you need to juggle or to balance within a project. Now, that is where project management is needed. So, the whole point why project management is needed is first, it will help you, an organization, to achieve your project objectives. Without project management, you cannot do that. It will also help you control cost and schedule. It will improve your communication. It will help you manage risks effectively. We know projects are made up of risk. It is the whole concept of risk that gets us to do the project, because with risks comes the reward. It also enhances quality delivery. It increases your chances of project success. So just think of a world where there is no project management. So we are looking at budget overruns. We are looking at delays. All right. So if project management is not being done properly, we've seen projects, the cost of projects doubling, or projects which were supposed to take a year or two, we've seen them go for, let's say, 5 years. And I don't even need to point examples within our country. There are very many that you have seen from. Perhaps you've even been part of these projects to begin with. You'll see things like poor quality. You'll see things like scope creep, additional work being added to the project without formal approval. So you end up doing work which was never planned for. You'll find a lot of stakeholder conflicts on such kind of projects. And eventually, these kind of projects, they end up failing. So we don't want these kind of things. And that is why project management is very important. All right. I am not so good at history, but I just want to briefly point out to the evolution of project management, since the ancient times up to a point in time now. So we know project management has been around since ancient days. Early those days back in the 1900s, actually even dating back before then, like during the construction of the great Egyptian pyramids, the construction of the Great Wall of China, the aqueducts, the Roman roads, all those, there are concepts of project management. All these required some sort of planning. It required organizing labor, managing resources, even though this was not very formal, but the whole idea of project management already existed. Now then came a period of industrial revolution. If you know about the first industrial revolution around 1760 to 1840. Now during this time there were major growth rates of factories, engineering works, infrastructure works. So this even created more need for more planning, better ways of supervising and ensuring that there is efficiency in the way that we are undertaking this work. Okay, then it came in the early 1900s where we now move to the era of scientific management. You'll hear figures such as Frederick Taylor, who introduced the scientific management principles to help improve productivity, and increase work efficiency. So if you search about Frederick Taylor and his scientific management principle, you'll read more and you'll understand that there was now a shift happening in the way that project management was being done. Then came 1910s. This is when Henry Gantt created something that would eventually change the entire landscape of project management. This is when the Gantt chart was developed. So the Gantt chart became a scheduling tool, and up to date we see it being widely used for planning, for tracking project activities, for visualization of progress, and so on and so forth. So within the 1940s and the 1950s, this was post-World War. When the Second World War happened, we had to rebuild. Okay, so complex military and engineering projects surfaced during that time. So governments were putting in a lot of investments, to put up to rebuild their countries. And during this time they needed some sort of more formal planning and coordination methods to ensure that these complex military and engineering projects were a success. And we know for sure they became successful. Then around 1957, this is when the renowned critical path method was developed by DuPont, which was a very good tool that helped us up to date in identifying critical activities that can affect project completion timeline. And it is the tool that is being used in most of the up-to-date project scheduling softwares. Then around 1958, this is when PART was developed. PART is Project Evaluation and Review Technique. So this was developed by the US Navy, and it was for the measles program to help manage schedule uncertainties within schedules better. All right. Then after that came the 1960s, when we moved to the modern project management era. Now the 1960s, organizations started recognizing project management as a separate and a distinct professional discipline. So you can see that project management, the modern project management profession, is as old as about 66 years, if I can say. So after that, PMI established itself in 1969. So that is how old PMI is. So the PMI was founded during that time, and around 1980s, the first PMBOK development began. Now, PMBOK is PMI's standard for managing projects. So at this point in time, professionals were coming together and thinking, how can we standardize the practice of project management? Then they started creating what we call the Project Management Body of Knowledge, PMBOK. Okay, so the first PMBOK guide was published in around 1987. So when PMI published this PMBOK guide, which was introduced globally, and it started, it was generally accepted as a standard for project management. So the PMBOK guide evolved, of course, up to date. We are currently now on the 8th edition of the PMBOK guide. Okay, but something that happened and something which was very phenomenal is in 1984. This is when the PMP certification was introduced. So at this point in time, PMI launched the PMP certification, and that was one sure way that a project management professional could show for his knowledge, experience, and competence and validate his competence. Now, throughout the years, the 1990s to the 2000s, there was a major push for this PMBOK guide and the standards for project management. Most importantly, also the PMP certification. So during the 1990s to the 2000s, these PMBOK and the PMP gained worldwide recognition across different industries. Think of IT, construction, oil and gas, finance, you name it. Okay? And with the dynamics, the world was rapidly changing and the landscape of project management was never the same. So there came 2001, where the Agile Manifesto was published. Now, this would mark the beginning of something that was going to be very important for the future. So the Agile project management technique emerged. So the Agile way of working was emphasizing majorly flexibility, was emphasizing collaboration, emphasizing faster delivery of value. And this was majorly being adopted within software development projects. All right. Up to date, Agile way of working has now been accepted, and many people are combining these ways of working into the traditional ways of working to create what we call hybrid or modern approaches. So from 2010 to the present, we've seen the development of hybrid approaches that is about combining different methods of delivering projects. Okay, and we saw quite a lot of frameworks in Agile coming up, like the Scrum way of working, the DSM, Scaled Agile framework, Crystal methods, Lean approaches, and so on and so forth. Tools like the Kanban. So this is just a brief evolution of how project management moved up to this point in time. So to date, the PMBOK guide is the globally recognized standard for project management, and the PMP is the golden, I can say is the golden certification in project management. So now that we know what the evolution is, where do projects actually sit within our organizations? Now, projects may be undertaken as an individual project, or projects could be part of a program. We know that a program is a group of related projects that are undertaken together so as to achieve, to obtain benefits that we may not be able to obtain if we were to manage these projects individually. So that is why program management is also very important within our organization. Now, the whole concept of project management, program management, and portfolio management is what we call organizational project management. And at the top or at the apex sits what we call portfolio management. And portfolio management is the collection, or rather a portfolio is a collection of, all the programs within the organization, subsidiaries, portfolios, even individual projects, operations. Think of everything within the organization that you need to achieve the strategic objectives. I understand within the organization you have a strategic management, strategic plan. It could be a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, and where you want to be within that time. Okay. So it is important that you understand the value of projects and project management within your organization. So projects cascade, or the effect cascade into programs. It will help programs to achieve it will help programs to achieve what the objectives are. So if programs achieve the objectives, it is easier for them also. It is easier for the organization to achieve its strategic objectives. So next time you're working on a project, don't think your effort are not important. Your effort has a cascading effect on the programs and even at portfolio levels. So your CEO is literally as good as you are, you as a project manager. Wow, so that was a little bit so much of history, but I felt maybe that was going to stimulate you into seeing what the bigger picture is and why the PMP is actually important. So to date now we have the standard way of managing projects, which I want to call the PMBOK way. All right, the PMBOK way. So you may be asking yourself, why is actually project management important? What is the whole point of PMBOK? Now, PMBOK, as I told you initially, stands for Project Management Body of Knowledge. It is a globally recognized standard that is developed by Project Management Institute, PMI. So PMI is the body that develops the PMBOK. They are situated within the US. The purpose of the PMBOK is to provide some of the best practices for project management. It is to help standardize project management processes and also to guide project managers globally. Think of it within your individual professions. You have standards that help guide, standards that help guide how we undertake, our activities or how we deliberate on our tasks, whether be it as quantity surveyors or engineers or doctors, whatever the case may be. The point is to standardize the practice. So the benefits of the PMBOK guide is, if we are using a standard, so it is possible for us to ensure consistency. So meaning a project manager from China or from Japan or from South Africa or from Uganda, all of them could be able to speak the same language in project management and to be consistent in how they actually present the information. This could also help to improve practice. It is also globally recognized, and so it can ensure better governance within our projects, but also within our organizations. So when you talk about the PMBOK guide, for some of you who have had the opportunity to look into it, but for some of us who might not have had the opportunity to look into it, the PMBOK guide as a standard will guide us on some of what we call the knowledge areas. It will guide us on scope management, on schedule management, on cost management, risk management, quality management, stakeholder management, procurement management, communications management. You can see that all these are very, very important parts of a project. Any part of this knowledge area fails, your entire project is headed for a failure. So that is why it is important, you as a project manager, to be skilled in all these areas, to be knowledgeable in all these areas. Okay? So the question is, what are the skills of a modern project manager today? Now, for you to be successful as a project manager in today's era, you need not to only be good at your technical skills, but you also need leadership skills, and most importantly, you need strategic business skills. Now, this brings us to what we call the PMI talent triangle. So the whole point of the PMI talent triangle is to indicate to us, the different areas that a project manager is expected to be skilled in. The first is what we call the ways of working. In other words, the ways of working is the technical skills. So if you're going to be constructing a building, you have to know about construction of a building. If you're going to be developing a software, you have to have some technical skills on how to develop a software. If you are a doctor, whatever the case may be. So, and next is what we call power skills. Now, this is dealing with people, leadership skills, managing conflicts. It is very important in today's world. You cannot be a good modern project manager without that arm of the PMI talent triangle. And most importantly, business acumen. Understanding the whole picture, having a holistic approach to managing your projects, not seeing a project from a narrowed lens, but seeing it from a business perspective, understanding your business environment, scanning your business environment, understanding the tools and techniques that you need to select what a good project is. There is so much to business acumen. Okay, so it is important that you hone skills in all of these arms of the PMI talent triangle. Some of the competencies that you may need as a modern day project manager is communication. 80% of the time, research shows that the project manager is communicating, whether via emails, via phone calls, via meetings, face to face, video conferencing, whatever the case may be, you will be communicating. Leadership, you need to be adept at leadership, the ability to inspire, to motivate people towards a shared vision. Remember, leadership is not management, and you need to also know the difference. Both is important. Negotiation, every day you're going to be negotiating. You're going to be negotiating on the trade-offs between cost and quality, quality and scope and time and cost. You're going to be negotiating with the resources, with the subcontractors, suppliers, vendors, and so on and so forth. You're going to be negotiating with even the local authorities. So you should have negotiation skills, problem-solving skills, risk management, time management, team coordination, decision making, etc. Because this is not exhaustive, okay? But that is one thing we know for sure. So then the question is, if as a project manager, you need to be talented in all of these areas, which is technical skills, which is leadership skills, and the business acumen. Now, how can you get that? How can you get to that? Now, that is the big question. Now, this brings us to the PMP certification. The PMP certification is I can say, is the answer to this question on how you can be talented in all of those three areas. The PMP is developed to help project managers hone skills or develop skills in all of those three areas. So we know today organizations are looking for professionals who can be able to lead teams effectively. They don't need to be micromanaged. They would be able to deliver projects successfully. Most importantly, the environment are rapidly changing. So organizations are seeking professionals who can adapt to these changing environments. There was a time, just I think around 2000, the internet was just coming in. It did not take so much time before it became a very big deal. Now, during this information age, now we moved from that to digitization. At this point in time, AI has become a great thing, and organizations are looking for people who can adapt to these changing environments. We saw during COVID periods, when the world was in turmoil and they could not move, and how things were different and how people had to adapt quickly. But most importantly, organizations are looking for individuals who can apply global best practices. All right? And the PMP certification is the only way that you can validate that you have these competencies globally, because the PMP is known as the global credential or certification in project management. I can tell you for sure that quite a lot of organizations are seeking these global best practices. I will point to some arms of government. I remember following our last national conference for PMI, we hosted the deputy speaker by then, and I think by now, Taebwa, and he recognized the importance of PMI and standardization in the profession of project management, and he pledged support, and he said we need to make sure that government projects, or teams that are leading government projects, they should adopt these kind of things. And there are quite a lot of arms of government, I can assure you, who have mainstreamed the PMP certification for their project team. One of them is UNOC. UNOC recently just took on that project of getting their project teams to become PMP certified. I think they funded all that. Within Tanzania, There was a time when the Tanzanian Railway Corporation also got the entire project team PMP certified, and they paid for that. Now there are very many ministries which are doing the same thing, and even private organizations. So they are finally seeing the value of the PMP. So you now may be asking yourself, what is the PMP? So now that brings us to the second part, which is the overview of the PMP certification. During this session, or during this section, I will try and make sure that I give you a detailed understanding of what the PMP certification is and how you can actually become PMP certified. All right? So hopefully we are still following. And in case of any questions, I want you to be typing those questions into the chat. I want you to be keeping those questions. When we get back during the Q&A session, you can ask those questions. All right. But for now, I want you to give your full attention to the presentations that we are undertaking. So I see other people are joining in. So welcome, Duncan. Welcome, Angel. Welcome, Bahati. I see we are joining by Immaculate. You're welcome. By Joel. Joel, you're welcome. Yusuf. You're also welcome. Tilton, you're welcome. Tunemukama Joseph, you're welcome. And so many other people. We are still going to be joined by other people, but it is so sad that they may miss some very important parts of this free session. But no worries, this session is being recorded, and if you have attended, you will surely be able to get a copy of this recording. So let us answer the question of what is PMP. So PMP stands for Project Management Professional. Okay, it is the world's leading management certification that is offered by PMI. PMI is the Project Management Institute. Now, one thing about the PMP is that it is recognized by many globally as the gold standard certification in project management. And the PMP is accepted across, different industries. And most importantly, the PMP is respected by employers globally. So someone who is PMP certified or has the PMP certification demonstrates competencies in project management. It means he has leadership capability. This also demonstrates experience and expertise in project management, but most importantly, their knowledge of global best practices as guided by the PMBOK guide. So that is briefly about the PMP. So now that you know what the PMP is, you may be asking yourself, why do I need PMP? What is the value of the PMP? Now, there are quite a lot of benefits to the PMP, but just like Elon Musk, there was a time he was asked a question and he responded in a very, I would say, some people would say arrogant way. But the whole point is if you do not see value in something, perhaps you don't need convincing. Okay? And this is very true. So at the end of this session, if you really need convincing to see the benefits or the value within PMP, then someone would just say, well, don't get PMP certified. Don't go for it. That would be the best. Instead of trying to convince you that, you have to get this and this and this, it would sound like someone is trying to sell you, a scam or something like that. But the benefits I can tell you for sure is career growth. And these can be shown by statistics. If you go on the PMI.org website, you'll be able to download some of those reports, and you'll be able to read the statistics. People with PMP, they're getting opportunities to better jobs, they're becoming more competitive, their earning potential has actually also increased. Now, statistics shows that those with PMP certifications tend to earn more than those their peers who are not certified. And global recognition, PMP is recognized globally in over 200 countries. Professional credibility. Now, this would also show your employers that you are committed, to being a better project manager and you're competent. But also, most importantly, is the improvement in your skills. someone with the PMP or someone who is PMP certified, has enhanced leadership skills, has skills in risk management, communication management. They have strategic thinking skills, negotiation skills, leadership, and so on and so forth. Think of all those knowledge areas that we were talking about. And also, it's an opportunity for networking. The global body of PMI is too big. PMI does not offer only the PMP certification, but when you become PMP certified, you have access to the global body of PMI, and even the local body of project managers. For example, within Uganda, we have a local chapter for PMI, so you can get access to them. You can network with these individuals. Okay, now who can become PMP certified? Now that question, the truth is anyone can become PMP certified. All right, whether you're a quantity surveyor, whether you are you work with NGOs, you are a mechanical engineer, you in banking and finance, you name it. We believe that projects happen in all of these areas. Okay, so what do you need then? Who is qualified? Who is eligible to become PMP certified? So there is one criteria, which is first is the 35 hours of project management training or education. So once you have these 35 hours of project management training, you can be eligible rather to apply for the PMP exam. But also if you have the CAPM certification, you can also be eligible to apply for the PMP exam and sit the exam and become PMP certified. Now that is one of the requirements which is common regardless of whether you meet set A requirements or set B requirements. Now what is set A requirements? Set A requirements, this is when you hold a diploma, all right? You don't have a degree. So when you hold a diploma, you need to give evidence of 60 months of experience leading projects. That is about 5 years of experience leading projects within the last 8 years. Now, you don't need to be a project manager. You don't need to have the role of a project manager. You have to be leading, to be part of the project team leading that project. So meaning if you have a diploma, you'll also have to document 5 years of experience leading projects on top of the 35 hours of project management training. On set B requirements, if you have a bachelor's degree, here you document only 3 years of experience leading a project within the past 8 years. Perhaps you may want to read more about the eligibility criteria for PMP. You can still follow that link. So one thing I want to point out, whether you are a high school diploma holder or a bachelor degree holder, you can see that one thing is common: the 35 hours of project management education or training. So now you may be asking yourself, at what point or when can I become PMP certified? Now this brings us to the PMP roadmap. So I want to share this roadmap, and we have crafted this roadmap as NewSkill. This is the best roadmap possible, that if you follow this roadmap, I can guarantee you can become PMP certified within 2 to 4 months tops. 2 to 4 months tops. I cannot promise you anything less than that. It would be unrealistic because the class alone has to, of course, take at least a month and 2 weeks. Okay, so these are the following steps to getting you PMP certified. The first thing you're going to do, you're going to attend the PMP examination prep course or to get the 35 contact hours. Okay, and that is what NewSkill Uganda provides. Then the second thing, you're going to do a knowledge check with PMI. Now, PMI nowadays requires a mandatory knowledge check. After you complete your training, you log into PMI and do a knowledge check, and you should pass 80% minimum. Then once you do that, you can apply for the PMP examination, and if your application is accepted, well and good. Then if you have been selected for an audit, make sure you complete your audit within 90 days. So after that, after the application has been accepted, you can pay and schedule your PMP examination. Sit when the day comes, you sit and pass your PMP examination, at that point you become PMP certified. But it doesn't stop there. You have to maintain your PMP certification by earning PDUs. All right, this is just a brief highlight of what the roadmap looks like, but I want to delve deeper into each of these different steps so that you can understand. You may have questions, how do I get the 35 contact hours? How do I apply, and so on and so forth. So let us get into that. So number one is to enroll for a PMP exam prep course or to get a certification called the CAPM. CAPM is Certified Associate in Project Management. But to me, I always tell students, the CAPM course is expensive. It is almost just like the PMP, So it makes sense to just enroll for a PMP exam prep course instead of going for a CAPM. So then, this is where NewSkill Uganda comes in. This is where me as an authorized PMP instructor comes in. So in this case, you would enroll to one of our NewSkill exam prep classes, one of them starting very soon on May 30th. Now, the beauty with choosing NewSkill for this first step is that, first of all, we have authorized instructors that have been authorized by PMI to actually undertake these trainings. We are also using licensed and the latest study materials from PMI. We also offer flexible study time and flexible methods of study. You can choose between live instructor-led classes, or you can choose self-paced video classes. You can choose between weekend programs and evening programs. Weekend programs running Saturdays and Sundays from 9 to 1:30, and evening programs running 3 days a week, from 6 to 9. Also, the reason why you should choose NewSkill, of course, as your trainer is that we have proven record in passing students. Also, our course is very affordable. If I give you the chance to benchmark out there, start from Uganda, look at some of the training providers within the region, East Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, go to South Africa and even outside. The fees are crazy. So what I can tell you is that we are actually the cheapest providers of this training, but yet we are giving top class training. Also, you'll get a chance to an active WhatsApp study group. You'll have answers to some of your pain points. These instructors have gone through the same issues that other people are going through, so that they have learned and mastered the in and outs of the PMP, exams. So they will make sure that you don't have to relieve their pains again. So there will be answers to these pain points of yours. And also, you have access to our real PMP exam simulator or question bank. So we have quite a lot of real PMP questions that you can use to practice after your study. Also, you will have session recordings. So every time you attend the class, you have session recordings. So should you miss a class, you don't have to worry. You will be shared with the session recordings that you can review at another time. But most importantly is that through their training program, you'll be able to gain the confidence to take your PMP examination and pass and become PMP certified. This is a beauty with taking NewSkill as your choice for the PMP exam prep course, which is the number one step towards getting PMP certified. The second step would be after you've completed the PMP course, of course, you'll do a knowledge check. All right. Now, this knowledge check, as NewSkill, we first do what we call the PMP mock exams. All right. Now, this one is the real PMP questions simulated under real exam environment. We are trying to give you a real feel of what the PMP examination would be like. All right. So you get this feel before you even go into the actual PMP exam. Also, this PMP mock exam will be the basis to earning the certificate of completion, which is needed for your application in the future. Then also we have in-class assessments. So during the course, we shall be giving you assessments to help build your mastery in the different content that we are studying. Then finally, you're going to log into pmi.org and you will complete a knowledge check. So that is the second step to becoming PMP certified. Then next, after you've done that, you will now apply for the PMP examination. Now the application is done online on pmi.org and the application is free. Okay, the application is free. So what does it take for you to apply for the PMP examination? First, you're going to create a free account on pmi.org. Then after that, you will open an application form for the PMP exam. And in that application, you'll fill personal details. You will fill, of course, like your name, your address, your date of birth, and so on. Then you will capture whether you have a degree or a diploma. You'll give details for that. Then also you'll capture your 35 hours of project management training, which should be live instructor led. So in that case, if you've taken your training with NewSkill, you capture our training. By that time, you'll have all the details you need. Then now you log your experience description. Remember, if you have a degree, you have to show 3 years of experience. If you have a diploma, you have to show 5 years of experience leading projects. Then you'll capture that experience. Then any other details that are needed, you'll also capture that and you hit submit. Once you hit submit, you will wait for about 3 to 5 business days for feedback from PMI. All right. But the beauty with this third step in your PMP certification journey is that if you take it with us, if you take the training with us, we ensure that we assist you with this entire process of applying for the PMP. It is very tricky because any mistake you can actually get audited. So now that brings us to the fourth step. What if your application is picked for audit? So if your application has been selected for an audit, you have to complete the audit. So something you may need to know. Someone may ask the question, what is the criteria of being picked or selected for an audit? Now the system does this randomly, so your application can be picked randomly, all right, for an audit. And as I told you before, there are some errors if you make during your application can also flag the system, make the system think that you are actually not being truthful. So that is why we help you with that. But in a scenario that you've been selected for an audit, you will have 90 days to complete your audit. All right. So how do you complete your audit? Now you will have to submit your diploma or the degree certificate, whichever that you've captured. Then also you will submit proof of attending the 35 hours of project management training. So in that case, it would be the certificate of completion from NewSkill if you have trained with us. And of course, they'll reach out to us to confirm indeed if you have indeed trained with us. And then you will submit one reference for each of the projects that you've logged. So if you've logged 3 projects, you will have to submit each one reference. Then after you have all that, you will submit your audit package. Then what will happen is your references will be contacted via email. So it is important that at this point you inform your references that you'll be putting them as referees for this and this reason. And you ask them to complete the audit questions from PMI. All right, so they'll log in, they'll complete the audit questions, which are simple questions, whether indeed they just want to confirm if indeed you are part of that project in the capacity that you claim you are. So let us assume that everything is fine and the audit is complete, then your application will be approved. But if you take all the 90 days and you have not yet completed submitting the documents that has been requested, then now your application will be rejected and you will be suspended for a period of 1 year. Also, if your audit fails, you will also be suspended for a period of 1 year. It could be as simple as one of your referees denies that you were part of a project. So it means you are lying. So your application will be denied and you will be suspended for a period of 1 year. So meaning you can only come back after a period of 1 year to apply again. So ensure, in case the application has been picked for audit, complete it within 90 days and you're good to go. But once again, if you are our student, if you took our PMP exam prep course, we help you in the process of applying. Very rare scenarios, we have issues of applications being picked for audit. Even the ones that have been picked for audit, we always make sure we sort that as fast as possible and none of our students have ever had to be suspended. Now, the fifth step in your roadmap to becoming PMP certified. So once your application has been approved, it is now time to pay for the examination. Okay, so you may be asking yourself, how do I pay for the exam? Now it is also done online. So you're going to be using maybe your credit card, your Visa or your MasterCard, whatever the case may be. The examination fee for non-members is $575. The examination fee for members is $284. And the fee to become a member is $109 for global membership and $30, which is optional for local subscription. The $30 is optional, remember, but we always recommend that you subscribe to a local chapter. So altogether, when you add that up, the membership fee totals to something about $139. So let us try to do some simple math. If you pay for your PMP exam as a non-member, you get to spend $575. If you pay for your examination as a member of PMI, you get to first spend $139 for membership fee and $284 for the exam fee, which is the discounted fee for members only. So that would be about $423. You can see $423 is still way less than $575. That is approximately 1.6 million. All right. So that would be the cost for your examination. And our recommendation is to first become a member, then you pay for the exam. Okay. Because you'll get that discount for becoming a member. And becoming a member does not require any certification. You don't need to be PMP, or you don't have to hold a certification to become a member. So you can see at the end of the day, the total cost for your PMP journey, that is the cost of training plus the cost of examination, is about 2.8 million Uganda shillings. Because the training with us NewSkill is 1.2 million and the examination is about 1.6 million. That brings you to a total of 2.8 million. So those are your financial, the financial considerations that you have to make. Okay. Now that you're paid for your examination, you'll go ahead to schedule your examination. Scheduling the examination is choosing a date that you want to sit the examination, choosing a time that you want to sit the examination, and what method do you want to use to sit the examination. Now, there are two different ways that you can take your exam. The first is what we call in-person testing. Now, with in-person, this is where you go to a testing center. And some of the testing centers that we have within the country, Makerere, Mat Abacus, Crosslinks, and so on and so forth. All these testing centers will be listed when you're scheduling your examination. Now, the beauty with in-person testing centers is that the computer, the system, the internet has already been taken care of. You have a quiet testing environment. You don't have to worry about any glitches in technology. You don't have to worry about any interruptions because the environment is specifically to take the test. But then there is also a second method called online proctored. Now, online proctored, this is where you don't have to go to an in-person Pearson VUE testing center. You just sit at the comfort of your home, and you take the test. The beauty with this is that you have flexible scheduling. You can take the test at any time, any day, 24/7. All right. You only have to have the required internet. You have to have a webcam. You have to meet the requirements needed to take the test online. So you will have a familiar workspace. Maybe it is your home office, whatever the case may be. But as NewSkill Uganda, we do not recommend the online proctored method. Well, you can use it, but the risk is all on you. Should there be an internet, breakdown, and you're taken out of the test, the risk is on you. So you can forfeit your examination fee. But with in-person testing centers, the risk is on the testing center. So nothing can go wrong for you. So we recommend in-person testing at Pearson VUE testing centers. Pearson VUE is the provider of the system. Okay, and some of those testing centers, remember, I told you, Makere, Math Abacus, Crosslinks, and a few others. So that is when the day comes for you to sit for your examination. Now, as you go for your examination, what could you be expecting, or what should you be expecting? Now, this brings us to the section of about the PMP exam. Now, the PMP exam, as many people, may say it is not a very hard exam. It depends on how you're prepared for it. But not to lie, the PMP exam is tricky, all right? But I'm not saying it is that very hard the way people actually say it. That is a myth, and I want to clear that. So, about the PMP exam that you need to know is the structure of the exam. The PMP exam is made up of 180 questions in total. You're going to have 240 minutes to complete the exam. That is about 4 hours. So think of 4 hours, okay? A test that takes 4 hours. And in these 180 questions, you have 10 pre-test questions. Now, what do we mean by pre-test questions? Pre-test questions are questions that are not going to be scored. Now, you will not know. They will not tell you that question 1 is a pre-test or question 2 is a pre-test and so on and so forth. You have to treat all the questions with the same importance that they do deserve. Okay? But the whole point of pre-test questions is to check, the validity of those specific questions to see whether they are not so hard. If people are passing it too much, perhaps it is too easy. If people are failing it too much, perhaps it is too hard. Then they have to work on that. So the whole point of pre-test is to confirm the difficulty level for your exam. The examination doesn't want to give you only hard questions. It also doesn't want to give you only simple questions. So it wants to test those questions. So it is the questions that will be used to check whether the exam, whether those questions are too hard or is too soft. So they need to be removed from the PMP list of questions. Then also, now, I want to talk about these 240 minutes because I know it is quite a lot of time. You may be wondering, who can sit for 4 hours, in an exam or in a test? But then now we have what we call breaks, all right? And for any answer that you provide within your PMP examination, there is no penalty for wrong answers. If you don't get it right, you just miss that point. They will not deduct your point, all right? And also there will be 2 10-minute breaks. So think of it like this. You have 4 hours, all right, to complete the entire test. But what we're going to do is we're going to break this test into 3. We are going to have the first session. Then after the first session, we take a 10-minute break. Then we come back for the second session. After we complete the second session of our exam, we take another 10-minute break. Then after that now, we come back for our third session. So 180 questions divided into 3. Those are 60 questions for each session. So the first session will be 60 questions. So once you complete the 60 questions, the system will prompt you to take the 10-minute break. We recommend that you take this break. Go out, catch some fresh air, rejuvenate, take some coffee or maybe some water, do some push-ups, get the blood pumping. That is the whole point, right? So that when you come into the next session, you're more fresh. So what will happen is after you've completed 60 questions, the system will prompt you to take the 10-minute break. If you accept to take the 10-minute break, you'll submit the first batch of 60 questions. The examination will pause. Then you'll go and take the 10 minutes. Once the 10-minute break is completed, you will then come back for the second session. Apologies, there's a dog making some noise for me in the background. Hopefully it does not disorganize us. Then after that, you'll come back for the second session, which is another 60 questions. When you complete that, the system again prompts you to take another 10-minute break, which we recommend you should also still take it. Then you will now come for the last. Some people choose to take the examination in one go. It is your choice. But just so you know, you have 2 10-minute breaks, which are not part of the 240 minutes. So if you had two 10-minute breaks, those are 20 additional minutes. That would give you about 260 minutes in total. And finally, once you submit a section, you cannot go back. Just like I was telling you, the first section is the 60 questions. Once you submit it, you cannot go back to review it. So you have to review your answers within that section before you submit. Because once you submit a section, you cannot go back to it. So after you've completed your PMP examination and you have submitted it, hopefully you've done all the questions. We recommend that you do all the questions. Do not leave any question unattempted. The system will grade you. Now, the system will not give you that you have scored maybe 90% or 80% or whatever the case may be. The system will tell you whether you have simply passed or you have simply failed. All right. So for passing, there are three grading points. Rather, there are two grading points. There is passing on target and passing above target. Now, for those who pass on target, those are people who have attained between, I think, 50% to 75%. For those who pass above target, those are people who have scored above 75%. To fail is to get anything less than half of the PMP exam right. So one thing you need to know about the PMP exam is what we call the domain. We have 3 domains, okay? And you're supposed to pass in all of these 3 domains. We have the people domain, we have the process domain, and we have the business environment domain. So the exam requires that you pass at least 2 domains for you to get the certificate. If you do not make that, then you're not going to make the certificate. Okay, so still about the PMP exam. The PMP exam is based on what we call the examination content outline. The examination content outline is a document that you are going to receive, of course, and it is also available on pmi.org for free. It details what areas that the PMP exam is going to test. So 33% of your exam will test your knowledge and skills about people. 41% of your exam will test the different processes of managing a project, and 26% of the business will test your business acumen. In total, that is 100%. So the exam will also be divided into predictive development approach. 40% of your examination will be predictive development approach, and 60% will come from agile and hybrid ways of working. All right, I'm not going to go to the depth of what predictive is, what hybrid and what agile is, but this is what you should know. And when you join our PMP class, of course, you'll get more depth into this. So maybe just a glimpse into what you should be expecting in a typical PMP exam. There are different types of questions that you will meet in your PMP exam, and some of these questions include multiple choice. This is where you select one correct answer. Multiple choice enhanced with graphics, you still select one answer. They will give you a graphic, then they will ask a question about it. Multiple select, this is where you select more than one answer. All right, so there could be 2, there could be 3, there could be 4 correct answers. Then we have what we call case study or scenario, and this is one of the most common types of questions that you'll be seeing, in your PMP exam, where they give you a long scenario. They will tell you, project manager Grace is working on project ABC. This and this and that has happened, and how should the project manager, maybe approach the situation, or what should the project manager do? Then also we have what we call enhanced matching, or otherwise drag and drop. We have point and click. Now point and click, this is where they'll give you maybe a graphic, and they'll ask a question about that graphic, and they'll ask you to click a point on that graphic. So that graphic is clickable, and they'll be able to tell whether you've clicked the correct point or the wrong point. Then also matching, this is just matching 1 to B, 2 to C, or 3 to D. You have ever done that matching when we're in a nursery? I don't know. So we also have some of that, but it is digitally done. And finally, what we call pull down lists, just like how we have drop down menus. So these are different types of PMP questions that you should expect. And you're going to find a combination of most of these. But majorly, you will find case study or scenario based type of questions. You're going to find multiple choice and multiple select. Those will be the one that will dominate your PMP examination. Okay, and of course, when you join the NewSkill PMP exam prep course, you get the opportunity at the end of the course. You get access to all of these questions, a digital simulator to practice some of these questions. So at this point in time, you'll sit the PMP examination and you will pass, remember. But the question is, what if you fail on the first try? What is your next step? You'll get another attempt within the year. So you don't have to reapply. You'll just pay for the retake fee. The retake fee is about $275. Then you'll go back, you schedule your exam using the two different techniques we said, whether in person at a testing center or online proctored. Once you've set scheduled for your examination, the day will come and the time you will sit and hopefully pass, not hopefully, and actually pass your PMP examination and you'll become certified. But we don't have to arrive at this point of failing. So as NewSkill, we want to make sure that you pass on your first try. But should you not make it, you need to know about this. Now, another question would be, what if I fail for the second time? Now, when you fail for the second time here, PMI will ban you for a year. You cannot be able to take any PMP examination for a whole year. All right. So meaning after the year lapses, you'll come back again, you'll reapply, you'll pay, you'll book, then you'll sit for the examination again. So that is how it would look like in case you do not make it on the first attempt. But I know with PMI, with our PMI license examination prep course, you'll be able to pass your PMP on the first try. We have the best support and the mastered approach to getting these things done. So this cannot happen with us. So after you attaining your PMP certification, after you're PMP certified, it does not stop there. You have to maintain your PMP certification. So you will have to earn what we call PDUs, Professional Development Units. So in every 3 years, PMI will require you to earn 60 PDUs. Now these PDUs can be earned through learning, through teaching others, through presenting, through reading some approved articles, volunteering within your local chapter, creating content related to project management, and so on and so forth. There are quite a lot of ways. And of course, we have a system that we do use for tracking these PDUs, for logging these PDUs, and there is an application that you can use. So for example, this session, if it takes us 2 hours, you can log in this session as 2 PDUs. All right, 2 PDUs. Now the question is, what if within these 3 years you fail to make the 60 PDUs? Now you lose your PMP certification. So meaning they will recall your PMP certification, you will have to resubmit, reapply for the PMP exam. You have to, pay, schedule, and retake the PMP exam, okay? Which is not good. I don't think anyone would want to go through the same burden for the second time, The PMP exam is not an easy exam. It is very consuming, time consuming. You don't want to do it for a second time. Yet there are very, very many ways of earning these 60 PDUs within 3 years. 60 divided by 3, that's about 20 PDUs. So those are 20 hours of learning or 20 hours of volunteering, whatever the case may be. And of course, as NewSkill Uganda, we help those who trade with us to track the PDUs. And also we have courses within the farm that can help you also gain these PDUs. We also have recommendations on how you can gain these PDUs. Then at the end of the 3rd year, if you've met the 60 PDUs, you are eligible to renew your PMP certification for another 3 years. So what you do, you just pay a renewal fee of $40. Okay, so expect $40 after every 3 years to renew your PMP certification. Okay, and at this point in time, you're now part of the global community of project management professionals with PMI. At this point in time, you're already part of the local chapter of PMI, which is the Uganda chapter. You're already networking with people, attending those conferences, attending free PDUs, by the way, that are organized by the local chapters. You're actively participating. Perhaps you're going ahead to pursue other certifications. This is the time we are talking about. So now the big question is, yes, I've given you a roadmap of how you can get this done from the very beginning up to the end. So it still comes down to, where do you begin? So where to begin today is to enroll for a PMP examination prep class, because at this point in time, I suppose you either have a diploma or you have a degree. And also you either have 3 years of project experience or 5 years at least of project experience if you have a diploma. So the only thing that is standing between you and the PMP certification is the 35 hours of project management training. And this is now where NewSkill Uganda comes in. And of course, we have our next intake. Our next intake is starting on 30th of May 2026. That will be a Saturday. It is a weekend program, Saturdays and Sundays, starting from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. We shall also have evening classes. So you just need to access the link, register. If you're ready to start the journey is going to take you 6 weeks of active learning, active engagement, trying to apply what you're learning into real life projects. And most importantly, you becoming a better project manager. Our focus is not to just, to train you to pass the PMP exam, but we want to make better project managers out of ourselves. All right. So I'm going to be sharing shortly a link on how you can register, a link on how you can access this PMP exam prep course, so that you can choose a schedule that fits you. There are other upcoming classes, not only the main classes. We have classes coming in June, classes coming in July. So choose which one fits you. For the course fees, right now, the early bird course fee is 1.2 million Uganda shillings. The PMP exam is changing, and the changes will also come with some increment in the finances that you're going to have to be expending. Very soon, the course fees will be moving to 1.4 million. So if you don't get in as early as possible, chances are high you will have to pay 1.4 million. So you can take the opportunity for the early bird fee between now and 30th of May. And for the second, those who are planning to join the cohorts after 30th of May, the early bird offer will still be ongoing for the next 2 weeks. Okay, so ensure you take up this opportunity as you look into becoming PMP certified. We have simple payment methods, of course, bank deposit, mobile money deposit that you can use to make payments. Our procedure for getting enrolled is very simple. You just have to register. So in that case, you can register by clicking that link. Most of the time, we are sharing that link on LinkedIn. We are sharing that link on our WhatsApp pages. Sometimes you may see it on statuses for your friends. So you can click on that Google Forms link, fill the link. Once you fill the link, we'll be able to get your information. We shall reach out to you, whether via email or via WhatsApp. WhatsApp is preferable most of the time because it is quick. Then we shall issue an invoice. Then you can process that invoice. Once you process the invoice and made the payment, you will be able to receive, and you share the proof of payment, of course, you'll receive acknowledgement receipt for your payment, and you'll also be automatically enrolled for a class, and you'll receive your enrollment letter. You'll be put in the class study group. You'll then after that receive the official study materials and access to all of our materials that our students will have, and all these are PMI license materials. Then when the day comes, you'll be able to join the class and start learning. That is the beauty. So I recommend that we take up the opportunity to learn the new PMP prep course and become PMP certified in the next 6 weeks. Whether you want to take a weekend program, you want to take an evening program, you can reach out personally for a schedule that is tailored for you so that we can help out. So scan that QR code and you'll be able to access the registration link. Or if you have that link, you can simply click on it. So as we do that, I will also go back to the class. I know I requested that you allow me to to continue talking to myself for a while before you can be able to ask questions, and I thank you that you allowed me to do that. So now I'm going to open the floor to us to ask questions, at this point in time, any questions that you may have, and just in case there are some other things that I've not answered in my presentation, this is still the time that you can ask it. So I think we shall take the next 10 minutes to take those questions and answers. Meanwhile, we do register for the PMP exam prep. Okay, so let me go back to the class. I see hands up from Alex. Yes, Mr. Alex. Yes, Alex, you can unmute and speak to us. Hello, Alex, we are not hearing you. You can unmute and let us hear you. Okay, seems like Alex is not able to unmute.
Yes, please. Thank you so much for that presentation.
Thank you.
My inquiry, I'm seeking clarification. You mentioned the course fee in total to be 2.8. And then you also mentioned this upcoming May intake at 1.2. I just needed some clarification on that, and I see
Okay.
the difference.
So the 2.8 I talk about was the entire financial requirement for your PMP journey. That includes the training fee and the examination fee. Remember, I made mention of 1.2 being the training fee and 1.6 being the exam fee. So that brings you to 2.8. But also with the changes, with the changes coming up, that fee could go to 3.0 million, because now the training fee, once the training fee goes to 1.4, the examination fee remains at 1.6. That could be 3.0 million. I think that is clear, right?
So this May intake, which is giving Arebad 1.2, I will have to top up 1.6 for examination.
Yes, and examination, remember, examination fee is paid to PMI, and this is paid at a time when you're ready to take your PMP examination. So once you apply and they approve the application, you literally have 10 years to take the PMP examination. So you remain eligible for 10 years. Previously, it used to be 1 year. If you apply, let's say today, by next year around this time, your application would expire. So it will require that you take your examination within that 1 year. But in this case, once you apply, you have 10 years to take your to take your PMP examination. So once you finish the class, you can organize the resources that you need to pay for the examination, schedule it, and sit for it. So you don't need to have all the 2.8 or all the 3 million upfront. That is what I keep telling the students. As long as you can afford to pay for your training, you don't need to wait until you can get all of the money at once. You can start the journey. So I think, Alex,
Right,
does that make sense for us?
thank you. Yeah, it makes sense for us. Thank you.
All right. Any more questions?
Sorry, I joined at the last hour. I'm so sorry. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Bosco, I've missed you. I've missed being your class.
Nice to know. How are you doing?
I am awesome. I am sitting my some papers of another exam. So apparently, well, I found you talking about the money we pay for examinations. Is it for the new syllabus or even for us who paid earlier?
It doesn't matter regardless of the format. The fee remains the same.
Or like for us who paid last year, is it still valid till sometime?
Now, if you already took the PMP exam prep class, the certificate does not expire. So once you have done the training, it does not expire. So if you have applied, and the only possible chances is your application might have expired. So you have to reapply because now PMI has made some changes in the eligibility criteria for that application. Remember, initially it used to be when you apply, you have 1 year to take the PMP exam. So after, if for example, I know you, Catherine, you undertook your PMP exam prep, I think last year, maybe around Feb.
Yeah.
So meaning, and you applied during that time. So high chances are your application has expired. So you will have to reapply and they will have to accept your application. Then you can pay for the examination, which is still the same fee, and you can sit.
Okay. When is the deadline for when is the new curriculum starting, if I may call it curriculum?
So the official kickoff of the new, rather of the training based on the new format of the PMP is 30th of May. That is the date that has been given to us. And the official date for the new PMP exam is July 9th, 2026. So meaning for one to sit under the old PMP exam format, they have to take the examination between now and 8th of July, 2026, which is about, as I could say, one month or something, 1 month and 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Catherine. Any other person with a question? Perhaps something is not answered and you just want to get clarification on that. How do I become a PMI member? To become a PMI member, you simply need to pay to become a PMI member. $109 for global membership, $30 for local chapter. So you just go to pmi.org membership. Yes, Susan.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I thank Bosco for the presentation. I joined a little late, but I just wanted to inquire, so once we start the studying, do we choose when to do the exam, whether to do the new curriculum or fit within the old one?
Okay, so nice question. So for all of those who are going to start their classes on 30th of May, moving forward, remember the class will take 6 weeks. So meaning it will take the entire period of June. So by the time you sit for your examination, you'll be sitting in the new format. So you don't choose. On 8th of July, immediately the old PMP exam will be retired and the new PMP exam will now be rolled out globally. I've also made a video on these changes and I think maybe I will share on our general group and you can watch this video of the different changes that are coming in and how they're being rolled out. So all those taking the PMP exam prep course from 30th May moving forward, you'll be sitting within the new PMP exam format. But if you've already completed your training, okay, you can undertake the old PMP format, which will go up to July 8th. But there is no cause for alarm, no cause for worry. there is no major changes that you should worry that maybe this will be more hard or so on and so forth. We still have the resources it takes to prepare you to pass. So that is all I can say, Susan. Okay, any other questions? Yes, I see, Alex, your hands are up.
Sorry for coming back again.
That is okay.
You wanted to confirm again. You've mentioned that $30 is the fee for membership, local chapter,
Mm.
and I wanted to ask if one goes for membership, local chapter, the privilege or the discount that person gets on the overall 2.8 or 3M.
Okay, so one thing, that's a nice question. First off, let me clear this. You cannot have the local chapter only without the global subscription. You first have to be part of the global community, then the local chapter is optional. So whether you join the local chapter or not, you still get the benefits of becoming a PMA member. So some of the benefits could include like the discount in the cost of doing the PMP exam. It could include things like your access to some of the free courses. You know, PMI has some very good courses around AI, generative, ChatGPT and stuff like that. Access to what I call privileged content within the PMI repository. You also have access to PMI's Infinity, which is an AI model trained with PMI content or trained with PMI data, and you can do quite a lot with PMI Infinity. So if you're a member, you have access to this. Of course, you'll have access to some of the free webinars. You have access to the global community of project managers and so many things. So the benefits I can say is immeasurable as long as you are proactive enough to take up the benefits.
So the discount is not in terms of cash, but it is in terms of those additional benefits.
The discount is cash in itself because remember I said if you're a non-PMI member, you pay $575 for your PMP exam. But once you are a PMI member, you get to pay only $284. So you can see there's already a cash discount even on your PMP exam. But aside from that, all of the benefits that you get for becoming a PMI member, the privileged information, that is, to me, that is the most important, by the way, of all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's great. Another question? Yes, I see Duncan as is still present, Grace, Angel, Anita, Bahati, Dafin, IDB Consuls, Immaculate, Joel, Andrew, Ezekiel, Dalusi, and other questions. I see also Philip is around, Samuel, Susan, Thomas, Victoria, and other people. I think perhaps because of time they left. So if there is no another question, once again, yeah, yes, please, Thomas. Yes, please.
Good evening, both and everyone on the call. Mine is a quick one, and it's regarding the payment for the exam. Is it possible for me to pay for the exam and the membership at once? With
Yes,
PMB,
that is true.
I have to be accepted as a member, and then wait and then pay for the exam.
That is true.
Because alternatively, maybe one could pay for the exam and pay the other membership fees and pay less other money as opposed to paying as a non-member, sitting the exam as a non-member.
So thank you so much, Thomas, for that. So once you're paying for examination, they will tell you whether you want to pay for the exam as a non-member or you first want to, or you want to pay as a member. So if you agree that you want to pay as a member, in your cart they will allow you to add PMI membership, and the discount will be automatically applied. So as we have always recommended, that would be the best approach. Also, in other words, someone would first pay for the membership, then go back to now what? Paying for the exam as a member. So all that works. Okay. All right. It was a very beautiful session with us having the Q&A, understanding the structure of the PMP exam, what it takes to become PMP certified, and the roadmap that will get you there. But most importantly, the value of NewSkill Uganda and the authorized instructors in ensuring that the journey is a little bit easy for you, understanding the value proposition in the PMP certification, and also interesting you to join some of our upcoming classes. So once again, for any other questions that you may have that you may not be able to ask right now, you can still reach out to me personally on WhatsApp, over the phone, whatever the case may be, and I'll be able to answer you. Also, make good use of the groups that you've been added to. You'll be receiving quite a lot of information around the PMP and project management at large. So make sure you follow us. You can follow us on LinkedIn. We also have a YouTube channel where we post quite a lot of good project management videos, related videos there, and we'll be sharing that. So for those who decide to be part of the May class, you're welcome to join, and I'll see you on 30th of May. So thank you once again, and have yourself a good day.